Hello YouTube, this is Joseph from STEM APKs. Welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to continue where we left off in the last tutorial. As you remember, in the last tutorial, we introduced the idea of filtering, of selective area filtering. And for example, I show you how to take an image, like this image of the Earth, and then I show you how to apply uh, different types of filters. Like for example, this one is pixelation, and it shows you how to pixelate, and then I show you also how to add other filters like let's do edge detection, apply, and you choose the area, and you only apply the filter to that particular area. And that's what we did in the last tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to take some of those same tools that we use, like for example, the cropping tool and the selective area and all of that stuff. We're building of what we've already have done, and we take it a step further. So in this tutorial, by the end of this tutorial, you will know how to create this ability, the ability to open an image and create an image and then create this layer manager where you can add a particular color. For example, in this case, I'm applying red. Yes. As you can see, I'm using the same technique from the cropping tool. When I release the mouse, the dialog appears, and I do it for the color. Let's say that now I want to change it to a different color. So I go back to the layer manager and then change it to blue, then add, and then let's do this one. As soon as I release, the dialog appears, and that's all it is. The click, drag, and release, the push, the events. So do I have, let's do one more blue, and now to be, let's do also, which gosh, let's do one purple. I'll just give you another color, and then purple. It's yes. And now if you want to see what you have, you can toggle, and there they are. But this is the beauty of this is that you have the ability to make these visible, the whole group visible or not. And you also have the ability to just make one disappear like I'm doing right now. You can different blues, different colors. You can see you have all control of the visibility of the layers. This, if you uh, have done any visualization softwares if you use, this is huge because you could, I'm using color just so you can see it, but you can play with the opacity. As you can see the opacity here, you can change that opacity depending on the application. You can make annotations, you can make labels, you can use it for this functionality can be very handy in many applications. And this is what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So I'm going to close here and this one, and I'm going to start talking about the code. Like I said before, the code that I'm using is the same. I'm just building on the cropping tool that we did before, as you remember. I'm using the same functionality. I'm not reinventing the wheel. We're using things that we already have in place. So you're going to see that the code is very, very similar because we're using the same things. So for example, here we're bringing from the image crate, the image buffer, the RGBA, we have red, green, blue, and alpha. um, transparency, right? We bring in filter error. You've seen me do that over and over again. We're here importing the image filter for the interface to handle errors. We also bring in the crop selection because we're going to be using the cropping tool. So we're going to be using the crop selection from here. Here we're creating the color filter struct. As you can see, this is color RGB. That's what that is. It's going to be optional because you're going to be selecting yes or no. Is you specifying the area where to apply the filter. The feather radius has to do with softening of the edges. You saw that in the last tutorial. We talked a little bit about it. And the intensity is using a floating 32 because it's going to be, this is what we're going to use to do the clamp work from to the strength of the color blending. Here's is the implementation of the color filter that we just created. This is just adding the default values. We're starting with a default value of 5 for the feather radius and intensity 0.5. You can change that. You can you can play around with with depending on your application. Here are the builder methods. As you can see, we're doing just the selection field, returns the modified color filter, sets the feather radius, and returns the modified color filter as well. And here's the intensity field with the clamping value of 0.0 to 1.0. Now we continue. These are the helper methods. Uh, if the distance exceeds the feather radius, for example, if it goes over, the factor is going to be 0. This is to create the softening of the filters. And like I said, some of them, depending on how much you want to blend the original color with the target color, you will play around with the specified blend factors in here. I mean, what I'm using here is it might not be the one that you want to use, so you can play with these numbers. Okay. Here's is the implementation of the image filter. It applies the color filter to the color image. As you can see, it's right here. Is going to make sure that you have an image and get the dimensions. You've seen that before. It's going to be for the RGB values of 0, 1, and 2, RGB, and it's gonna give you an error complaint if no area was selected. Like if you don't do, by the way, you can create the initial pixels dimensions as well. So right now I have it, I think it's 4 or 5 pixels, but you can play with those to make it smaller or bigger. It, that's up to you. Here's the opacity, because like I mentioned here, the opacity can be, um, actually it's in the other one. The opacity can be varied, and I'll show you in the next one. So that's the color filter. So now we keep going. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you these. Where is it? This one. These are the new layer filters that I created. As you remember these, we did that in the past tutorials. Now we're creating the layers directory. So we're creating those guys and this one right here, the layer state RS. Those are the only ones. Everything else, we're just making some changes, but these are all the new files. So that's what I'm going over now here. So now we go into let's keep the same order. So let's go into the color layer. Um, this is the color layer filter. This is where you're applying the color layer filter. As you can see, we're bringing the same Same usual suspects. We're bringing the image buffer, RGBA. We It's the same, very similar to the last tutorial, and this fast color filter right here. So you can see very similar. Same working with the opacity. This is what I was talking about. You can change this opacity, make it less opaque or more opaque. It's up to you. These are all default values now, but you can play with them. Here are all the functions that are going to be implementing, and here's the struct color layer filter. This is the implementation, and these are the functions that are going to be using them. So here you have the width selection, which is going to be, this is where it sets the selection field to the provided crop area, and it returns the modified color layer filter. This one sets the opacity field to the specified value. And also we keep going down. This one sets the feather field to, and returns same thing. They're very similar. Here's calculating and computes the feather opacity based on the pixel's proximity to the edges. That's why you have to check the bounds, because make sure that it's within the bounds. That's what's happening here. It has the min and max, and you, like always, you can change those depending on your application. Here's the image filter implementation. It's this is you've seen before. We're creating the selection, making the feather opacity, final opacity. This is where all is taking place row by row, pixel by pixel, where the blending is taking place, the RGB, and it's taking into consideration the final opacity, and it's right here. And then it's making its calculation, and that's where the magic happens. It's going to throw an error and complain if it didn't like whatever you did. And that's it, just iterating over each pixel and making sure that they are within the selections bounds. It also ensures that the pixel is within the image. It computes the effective opacity for the pixels. All of that good stuff is happening there. Now we go into the color tool. This is just like the cropping tool. It's just using the same programming logic of the cropping tool. Is telling you open in the dialog. It's gonna complain if you don't open an image. It's gonna figure out whether you have an image or not. If you don't have an image, it's gonna ask you to please open an image. And that's what's happening here. For example, I'll just show you so you know what I'm talking about. Um, Let me close that for now. Let's exit and then open to make it simple. And let's say that you go and you want to start editing without opening an image. It's going to complain. True, and here, like for example, if you try to open an image, let's say, and you say you cancel it, it's going to complain and say it failed to load an image. But also, even if you try to start working with the getting the layer manager, is nothing's going to happen because there is no image, right? So you need, in order to open in order to do anything, you need an image. So this is where it's complaining here. Okay, here is just the cloning of it. They're keeping the original image for later because, as you can see, we're toggling from an image, the original image, and in order to be able to do that, as you can see, is you need to keep the original image basically out there, and you have to go back in for toggling between one and the other. This is what's happening. So that's why you have to clone it. And also here, also taking place, this is the stroke callback. We did that in the last tutorial with the same thing from the cropping tool. And as you can see, here is the grid where it creates the triangle. Um, I don't have it yellow. I took out the yellow because I didn't want it to interfere with the grid. But you can change it um, as you can. Like I have it in the other one, as you remember. Let's just show you. This is what this is. When you do the edge detection, let's say that you do this grid, that's what that grid is all about. Okay, so you know. And here, this just handle callback, the cloning. Here is the all the events key down. We we saw that in cropping tool. The push, click, drag, right? Drag, release. And then when you release, it starts happening. So it starts taking all the dimensions of whatever you selected. And that's what's happening here. Apply color to a selected area. This is when that question comes up. Let's say that you say, I want to apply red. And then you say that question, apply color to selected area. This is what this dialog is. It's coming from 300 by 300. And it's asking yes or no. These are the layer count, keeping the track of the layers, how many there are, because we're going to need them later. The dimensions, this image selection, the X, the Y is a Boolean, whether it's selecting yes or no. Color filter, this is the one that we did first. This is where it's being applied right here with the intensity. These right now are set at those values, but you can change them. And the redrawing, this you saw all of that. The handlers, very short because all it's doing is handling, create layer, and the toggle preview. That's all it's doing. Uh, it's a little bit shorter from the last one because there's only those two. Because this is doing all the work right there. Start the interactive color. And finally, the layer state. These are where the layers the maintains the state of the what's going on under the hood. So it's making sure, as you remember, we did one for those for the we did one for the watermark state. We did one for the filter state. We're just creating this one for the layer state. It has the struct layer where everything is being created, the string, RGB image, opacity, Boolean, RGB, optional crop selection because it's optional, and group ID is also optional because when you have these, you have an option to be as long as model it will not let you go. Yes. So now if I look at it, this is what this means. Is this group ID. Okay. So it's the layer group and the layer and the layer state. These are vectors, layer, and layer group. Okay, because they're going to have the active layer is going to have a size, the original image is going to have a color, so it's going to be optional. It can vary. This is the implementation of the layer state, the toggle preview that toggles back and forth. Is the preview active? Does it have a set original image? This is the original image that we talked about before. This is where it's creating the layer. It's letting you know that what all of this dialogue going here in the terminal, this is where it's coming from. It's letting you know what's happening. For debugging reasons, I have it here just to make my life easier. because as I was creating it, I was debugging it, so I wanted to know what's happening. Okay, so all of that dialogue is that you see here is being created there. Grouping the layers by color, creating the groups, and doing the loop for all the IDX and indices numbers, setting the group visibility. This is what this is here to make sure that they're visible or not, or closing them so you can see all layers removed. And we keep going, get the groups, set the layer visibility, get the composite image after everything has been done. And all of that is just for the terminal, so we know what's going on. And the blending and the layer count, get the layer mutable to make sure that that is being keeping the index as you're making the selection of the layers. Get the original image, remove the layer. This is the one when you want to get rid of layers. And all layers removed. This is that one right there. We just did it when I hit close. And that is it. Basically is like I said, it builds on what we created already, and it gives you this nice thing that you can use it for different applications. I mean, it can be handy um, for some situations that you can do. And you can also apply it not only to a grid, but you can apply it to images also. Um, like one application that it would be good for these is annotations and labels and that type of things you can do. I haven't tried it on any of these. Let's say blue, add blue. Yes, this toggle. And oops, it went back to the original because I didn't close it. You need to close it to make sure that it doesn't save the state from before, just to keep it open. And let's just do anyone, and then edit layer manager, then let's add red, and then red, yes, red, yes, red, yes. Now you toggle, and there you go. But this is how you can play around with it. I'm gonna put this code in the GitHub so you can take it and do whatever you want with it. And this is the end of this tutorial. If you like this tutorial, click the like box, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time with another tutorial. Take care.